Since 1954, Terrebonne General has been a beacon of health and hope in our community. As we mark 7 decades of dedication to your well-being, Terrebonne General Health System remains committed to advancing healthcare, improving lives, and expanding our services to meet your evolving needs. In celebrating our past, we look forward to a future filled with promise and progress. Your health is our legacy. To discover more, visit tghealthsystem.com.
All right, welcome back to Bayou Town. We have Congressman Garret via the airport. It's going to join us right now. There you see him. And we're going to talk about $31.7 million in Hurricane Ida disaster recovery funds for the Bayou region. And Congressman, we've talked quite a bit over the years in the way that people have been reimbursed. And as you look now about what happened during the last storm in Florida and North Carolina and all, it's no shock to us what they're going through because we've been through a lot of this ourselves, and not to the magnitude some of them have been through, but some have been through it in that magnitude. So first of all, your thoughts. I know you've been really trying to get monies our way.
Well, look, first of all, I wouldn't wish a disaster upon anyone. And what folks in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina went through with Hurricane Helene, I just, awful, of course, what some folks in South Louisiana went through with Hurricane Francine just weeks ago and with the latest hurricane bearing down in Florida now. Strong concerns. But Martin, coming back to this announcement, one of the things the federal government needs to do is they need to be a safe and reliable partner. And here we are 3 years after Hurricane Ida, and we're just announcing funds coming through for things like a library, things like school repairs, pump stations, and retention ponds for flooding. And it really is frustrating that we've had to wait this long to get some of these key investments reimbursed so we can get these things rebuilt, get these services restored. And these are key services in some of our communities.
Yeah, and I know you've challenged, even when I saw you last, when you were at the EOP, you've challenged FEMA in panel discussions or group discussions. And did it do any good, or do they just sort of give you a song and dance, go back and do the same thing?
Well, look, things are certainly moving in a better direction. In fact, Martin, just within the past probably month, we have passed legislation through the House Transportation Committee that would help to reform the way that they handle disasters. Like, for example, smaller disasters, instead of deploying, all of these huge FEMA teams to go out there and literally deploy them for dozens and dozens of disasters across the country every year. Instead, hold your teams back for just the big ones, for the Hurricane Ida events, for the Hurricane Katrina events, for the Hurricane Helene events, the ones like that. And then what you do is you're prioritizing your human resources. And what you would do alternatively is instead you would send just a check for smaller disasters. So instead of deploying a whole team, taking up hotel rooms and other resources that are critical, instead what you do is you just send a check to the governor and let the states handle the recovery for some of these smaller disasters. Now, of course, that would be an option that the governors would get to exercise. But I just think that things like that and saving your resources for the larger disaster is something that will help to provide better service that will expedite reimbursement and things along those lines.
It blows my mind at the amount of time it takes the federal government to get on the ground. Now, granted, I know roads were washed out, bridges were washed out, but we have helicopters. We have means to get things anywhere, but it doesn't blow my mind to realize that a lot of the monies that FEMA was supposed to have in their coffers have gone to people outside the citizenship of the United States. This, to me, is the biggest travesty that could ever happen to the United States.
It's absolutely outrageous. And to watch the White House sit there and play Twister trying to explain themselves is absurd. What they need to do is they just need to acknowledge that they're spending billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer funds every single year, and they're spending it on the citizens of other countries for things like healthcare, housing, transportation, food, and clothing. And it is our taxpayer dollars And it's outrageous to see those things happen whenever our own citizens can't even have fundamental needs met, like electricity, like water, and having the full support of the federal government behind them when you see some of the awful implications from storms like Hurricane Ida and the latest Hurricane Helene.
Let me ask you this with about 2 minutes left. The biggest thing I'm hearing, I heard it again at lunch today with a group of people, they are scared to death that we are in no man's land with insurance. And I know that a lot of that falls upon our insurance commissioner, but regulations, I guess, would come to you all. Are we in a situation where basically everybody just got to walk away and say, okay, I'm going to be my own insurance company at this point. I can't count on anybody. What can y'all do as a Congress to maybe help put some pressure?
Well, so first of all, you're exactly right. The conditions that people, whether it's in Terrebonne, LaFourche, St. Charles, St. Mary, all through South Louisiana, the conditions that they're experiencing are absolutely unaffordable. And that's the only term to describe it. It's unaffordable. And the thing that drives me crazy and makes me so mad is the federal government says, oh, no, we want to protect you. We want you to be here. But then they do things like this, and it's death by 1,000 cuts to where you cannot afford to live there. Now, of course, as you know, the federal government only has jurisdiction over the flood insurance program, things like home insurance, car insurance, all that stuff. That's regulated by the state, right. And that is on the state insurance commissioner. I think he's working to reform it. But just the other day, you heard me with the administrator of FEMA sitting there saying that, oh, well, we need to do something about these unaffordable insurance rates. And I reminded her, she unilaterally made that decision to put those rates in place. And now she's asking Congress to bail her out. She should not have done that unless she understood the full repercussions. We told her on the front end. And as far as I'm concerned, she's made her bed. She needs to reverse course and go back to the old system of rates that were actually affordable, while we can currently fund projects like Morganza that will actually provide us with hurricane and flood protection, which then you have an actuarial reduction in risk, which means lower rates.
All right, we'll leave it at that. We're going to see you tomorrow. I think you're coming to town. So once again, I know you have a plane to catch. I'm not going to be the reason you don't catch it or you don't get where you're going. So thank you, Congressman, and we'll see you in Terrebonne Parish tomorrow.
Good deal. Thanks, Martin. I appreciate it.
All right, there you have it, Congressman Garret Graves. We appreciate him joining us. We'll be right back. Social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.